third time's the charm. After 2 canceled fights and pretty hostile negotiations, Tommy is ready to fight the YouTube star turned boxer, Jake Paul. But the Gypsy King only has one warning. Tommy needs to take this fight seriously. In fact, Tyson and John have some brutal consequences for the young boxer if he doesn't grab a win. I mean, coming back isn't even gonna be an option for him anymore. Let's not forget that he's gonna be out there representing the family name, and that's a ton of pressure. Having said that, he's still pretty confident he's gonna take the YouTube star down. After all, he's an unbeaten pro who won 8 bouts back-to-back ever since his debut in 2018. But let's not forget that most of his opponents were journeymen. As for Paul, he rose to fame on social media right after his switch to boxing, and now he's got a 6-0 professional record, with at least 4 of them coming in by stoppage. On top of that, his recent fight was pretty respectable when he dropped and outpointed Anderson Silva. That's right, the 47-year-old UFC legend who had even beaten Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in a boxing match. So, if I'm being honest, the upcoming fight is gonna define the rivals' careers in the boxing world. Mark the date, February 26, 2023. On the one hand, he's ready to get in the ring with a real boxer from a pretty legendary fighting family to prove his worth. On the other hand, Tommy thinks the next fight is gonna be the end of Jake's career. And while the Gypsy King might believe that too, he's trying not to be too biased about it. He spoke his mind on the YouTube star, calling him a decent boxer. In fact, he says he's seen his training and fights, and he does pretty well.
I've done it to Tommy, and Tommy's actually got a couple of broken ribs down one side.
As of now, he's been in 6 professional fights, so he's just getting started.
That's what people want to do. They want to tear you down, and they say you won't do something, and when you do it.
And that's why the Gypsy King thinks Tommy shouldn't be taking this lightly either. He needs to put his head in the fight and train over the last couple of days he's got. I mean, I don't think the social media back and forth between the two rivals is gonna stop anytime soon either. And the stakes are pretty high here. If Jake wins, he's gonna enter the WBC rankings. Meanwhile, that'll send Tommy into retirement because John doesn't want him in the ring without a victory. But while I'm at it, let's not forget that a lot of boxing fans aren't even taking the YouTube star seriously. In fact, they feel that Jake calling himself a real boxer is a mockery of the sport. Many say that it sort of degrades the sport and mocks the pro boxers out there who had to put in the blood, sweat, and tears to get a fight on a world stage event. Has this come too easy for him? Most fans definitely think so. In fact, they don't want to believe in something called a YouTube star when it comes to boxing. And they're not even ready to notice him until he fights someone noteworthy, because that's when they'll see what he's got. The second he defeats a world-class boxer is when we're gonna start paying attention. And it's exactly why the upcoming fight is so important for him, because it's his chance to prove himself in the ring once and for all, especially when he's up against one of the Fury brothers. Having said that, generally, he definitely seems to be getting better. He's young and strong and seems to be super motivated. Not to mention his top training and real quality sparring partners. Put all that together and that raises his chances at getting better quicker than any average fellow out there. And as for the mockery of the sport, boxing history is filled with scandals and controversies. So I don't think his fame as a YouTube star is really gonna cut it. In fact, I'm not the only one saying that. Tommy offered some rare support to his rival's YouTube boxing career. I gotta be honest with you, I definitely didn't see that coming. Despite the fact that they're a pair of absolutely bitter rivals, Fury says it's nothing more than financial rivalry. In fact, he's ready to receive a large payday for their showdown, and that's all he's interested in. Having said that, he's got a new hint of respect for influencer boxing, saying that it's pretty important to bring bring a fresh perspective to the good old ranks. Paul's career has definitely left a great impact on the traditional version of the sport, but he still thinks it's just a way to entertain the crowd and earn some cash. As for the professional boxing bit, well, we're gonna find out what's about to happen anyway. So, as long as it's getting more kids involved in the sport who don't normally watch it, that's a good thing, right? After all, publicity is pretty important here too. On top of that, Jake inspired a new wave of influencers to descend on the sport, and I'm talking about his brother Logan and YouTube rival KSI. Even though a bunch of boxing fans aren't too happy about the rise of YouTube boxing, it seems like that's where we're headed anyway. But if he manages to grab a win in the upcoming fight, he'll prove that YouTubers can definitely mix it up with professionals. In fact, he's so convinced about it that he's even planning to land a left hook
On social media, I think we should all see this, right? We should see Tyson Fury's impression of.
to wrap up the show. As for boxing fans, they've waited a long time for this. There's a lot of hype surrounding this fight. I mean, it's been 2 years since the two have been trading words, and we've gone through the pain of 2 canceled fights too. I think we really deserve to see this once and for all. And even though the fight's set to happen in Saudi Arabia on February 26th, 2023, there hasn't been any official announcement yet. But I mean, everyone's ready. Even the Fury family is out there giving ultimatums to Tommy for the fight, so I'm gonna keep my hopes up. In fact, I don't think he can afford to back out of the fight for the 3rd time, especially after coming so close. On the other hand, Paul's done everything in his power to make the fight happen. I mean, he was even willing to go to Manchester for the fight, and that's exactly why a bunch of boxing fans still aren't sure if they're gonna make it. In fact, one Twitter user said it would be a lot more convincing to people if they said the fight was set to happen on February 29th. And another said that the only official announcement we're gonna get is the one where Tommy pulls out yet again. But boxing fans aren't the only ones hyped up for the fight. KSI stepped in to talk about the upcoming fight too. It seems like he has reiterated his plan to fight Tommy if the Brit can beat Jake in their grudge fight. In fact, the Love Island star indicated that Paul is the only YouTuber he'd be willing to fight. After all, they've had quite the rivalry ever since the beginning of 2018. But right now, he just wants to fight the winner of the bout. Whether that's Paul or Tommy, it doesn't matter. He just wants to fight the best. Clearly, this fight has stirred up a lot of hype for fans and boxers alike. And honestly, this is going to be a game changer for their careers. And that's probably why there's a ton of pressure on the two. But here's my question for you. Which one of the two do you think is going to come out with a win?